The painting we're working on today is a painting with these 4 plants. And what we're going to do today is work on the background first, and then we'll be transferring the rest of the template to the canvas once the background is dry. So we've got 4 sections of the background. The brown part is considered the bottom or the table. And then we have this yellow color, a blue color, and this light pink color at the top. So we'll be transferring just the lines for right now as our very first step. So we're going to start off by transferring this template to this canvas. I've already placed pencil behind this template, and I'm not going to worry about the lines that are missing until we remove it. So let's remove this template here, and I've got my lines here. Now you could also just simply draw 3 lines across this canvas to divide up these lines. So for today's painting, the first thing we're going to do is the background. So we've got light pink here, light blue here, yellow, and brown. I'm going to be working with different colors. They'll be listed in the step out sheet, and we're going to start out with this light pink first. So the first thing we're going to do is use this light pink color. I'm actually just going to use it right out of the bottle today. Straight color. So we're just painting the top section with this color, this pink. And when I'm done filling in this area, of course, I'll add paint to the actual sides. Once the paint is dry, then we'll transfer the plants. The rest of the template with the plants. So you want to make sure that you use something that is that's a darker color on the back to transfer it. So you want to make sure you either use like a really dark graphite or that you rub on there, or a really dark pastel, or I'm going to use carbon paper, which will really make sure that I get the right lines. And then some of the colors that we'll be using today, which I'll list in the step out sheet, will be different shades of green and some yellow, and then we've got this light blue color that's a little bit darker than what's back here, and we'll be filling in all of those spaces. So this is a really good exercise to learn how to transfer a canvas. I'm going to flip this over so that we can get this part of it, the edge. It's a really good exercise in learning how to transfer a template to a painted surface already, and leave that background. So it's really important too, when we do this, here's the other part that's important, is that we don't make a mistake. So no mistakes allowed today. So here's our pink section there. Now I'm just going to take another brush, and we're going to use I'm going to use Cloudless Blue. This color I just used was Arteza Rose Pink. Next, I'm using Apple Barrel Cloudless Blue. I almost called it Crowdless, but it's Cloudless. And we're going to fill in the next section of this painting with Cloudless Blue. I'm going to use it right out of the cap. And it's very light. And I'm confident enough that that pink is dry. So a nice solid section, solid area of paint. You just really want to make sure that the background is totally dry before you start transferring the template. You don't want it to stick. So I would give it a good amount of time for it to dry. So I would say that this painting, I would pause the video at that point and allow the paint to dry, or prep your painting with these. With these colors. Just getting it close to that pink. I'm going to go back and fix that, I think, with that pink section. And I just want to get my sides. And then the next color we're going to use is Arteza Yellow. Arteza Lemon Yellow is the next one. Now, this Arteza Lemon Yellow actually is much brighter than the color that's on here. I don't know what happened to that color that I was using for this section here, but it is much brighter, and I really like it to be this bright. I feel like it makes a huge difference. So here's our very, very bright yellow. You know, one of the things that I don't like about using the paint out of the bottle like I'm doing right now is that it gets all over the handle. See how it's getting all over the handle right there? I just like to lay it down and get that paint off there and still continue to use it. Nothing worse than wasted paint. So I like the brightness that's here. Now, the bottom section, we're actually going to mix a golden brown color with a dark brown color. So we're going to use Craft Smart Golden Brown and Craft Smart Brown, and we're going to mix it right on the canvas. Just going to get the sides for the yellow. There we go. And just the sides here for the yellow. Okay, looks great. Get a little bit of yellow up there. So next we have this golden brown color here. And I also have some brown, Craft Smart Brown, just regular brown. So I have these on my trusty palette here. And you can see these two different browns right there. And I'm just going to use those colors for the next section. Here's my brown. Mixing it with a little bit of the darker brown, just right on that canvas. You just get a little bit more of this brown color. This is the darker brown that's right here. And then I'm going to add a little bit more golden brown onto my palette. And then dip a little bit in both of them. Dip and dip. A little bit more of the darker brown. It's slightly darker. It's not much darker. I just want it to be a little bit darker than that golden brown color is in the bottle. So there's a little bit more of that darker brown color right there. And again, getting close to this yellow. Right here. And just filling in this area here for this bottom section. So this painting has a different color palette. I think it's kind of muted colors. It also looks a little folk art like. It's just kind of this basic, get this other edge here, this basic flat paint. It's not, it doesn't have any shading, but it's a good, a different palette of color that maybe you normally wouldn't see together. Muted colors. And now at this point, I'm going to set it aside and let it dry before we continue on to transferring the template to the canvas. So let's get started with transferring this template to the canvas, and I'll be using carbon paper to transfer it onto the canvas where we've already painted the background of this canvas. So let's just set it aside, place it just completely on top of it, and now we are going to tape it down because I don't really want it to move, and I'll be using a pen to transfer over it. I've got this blue pen, which this way I'll be able to see exactly where the ink is as I'm drawing over it. So I'm just going to start out with the plants and start out with this little cactus right here on the left and work my way across the canvas left to right. So as I'm transferring this onto this, I'm pressing kind of a medium pressure. I don't want my pen to go through the piece of paper, and I do want to make sure that whatever I transfer onto the canvas actually goes onto the canvas. But because I'm using carbon paper, it really shouldn't be a problem because it'll give me a nice dark line. So moving on to the second plant, and this one is kind of different because it has these little flowers, and then it has these leaves in the backgrounds, as you can see, like this leaf right here, and then some more flowers. So a little cluster of leaves along with a little cluster of flowers. And when we paint these, we're just going to paint these all in an individual, as individual items. So just finishing up on that one. Now for this one, you can see that the plant that's inside this flower pot actually has a stem. So I'm drawing that line down, and as I draw the line down between the leaves, I'm bringing it right down to the pot. So it looks like it's growing from inside the pot. And then when we paint it, we're going to actually paint over that line, which is the stem of the leaves, and then we will outline that as much as we can, as you can see in the finished painting over to my left. But I just want to kind of get those leaves situated. So moving on to the fourth plant and the fourth pot, I'm not going to do anything with this zigzag here. I'm just going to let that stay, but I'm just going to go over and trace over my lines for the plant that's in here. And this is just a bunch of green leaves, a basic plant that has a lot of foliage, and we'll be coloring these with different, adding colors with different shades of green. We've got some different greens that we'll be working with for this particular plant. So we're just going to move on to finishing this up and get this template off the canvas and see exactly what happened. It's always a surprise at this point. So there we go. So now you can see that my plants are a little further up onto the yellow than I wanted them to be. So I want them to sit more on the brown. But it's not a big deal. I'm going to just start painting the rest of the pots, and then what I'll do is draw a line onto the side of each pot, and then I'll go over the brown area. So let's get started adding our colors for the greens, for the canvas. The first one I'm going to add is Arteza, Folk Art Green, bright green, and I've got Arteza Apple Green, and now I have Folk Art Green. And these will be the three greens that I'll be working with to start painting the cactus. And I'll be alternating between the greens for the different sections of the cactus. And then I'll be using these greens also as we go throughout the rest of the painting. So let's get started with this apple green, and we're just going to paint this side right here. And then this section here with the apple green color. And then this part here. Now I'm going to switch over to this bright, this is bright green. That's right here. And see how you can kind of see the difference now between the two colors? So that section right there, I'm going to do this guy up here. I'm making it into one shape up top. And then this one actually only has 2 different shades of green in it. So there is the base of the actual plant. And then for the flower pot on the first one, we are going to make it so that it is this golden brown color. And again, I am not going to worry about the bottom section until we're done. So there's my golden brown. Put a little bit right there. For my next one, I'm going to add this folk art green color to my leaves. And I'm going to alternate between some of my greens. So here's put some green right here. Kind of that folk art green color. Add a little bit of a darker green for this one. And then for this guy right here. And then I'm going to add a little bit of this apple green in the background of all of these flowers. And in the background of this section also. Then I'll add some pink for some different shades of pink for my my flowers. So I've got this rose pink color for this flower here. And then I'll add pink for this flower. I have mulberry pink also, which I only need like a teeny tiny amount. for some reason, this Arteza paint always kind of like clumps out. And then I've got this flower here that's going to be yellow. So let's use this King's Gold yellow. And I'm going to use the same King's Gold for this section here, for this one right here. And I think this painting really kind of starts to take shape once you add the black lines. We've got this flower pot here, and I think I'm just going to use a different color blue. I have this Calypso Sky. I think that'll make it really kind of pop. And that's for this flower pot right here. And then just fill in this area underneath those flowers. I'm using the tiniest brush. Sometimes I kind of gravitate towards a very, 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 very tiny brush. I don't know. Now, when I change this bottom section, I think that I'm going to just make the bottom section a dark brown. I've decided to make an executive decision and just make that just completely dark brown rather than having to worry about matching that color again that we mixed on there. You know, I think that would be the easiest thing to do. Let's put out some orange for our next flower pot, and I have lavender for the fourth one. It's not coming out. We don't know why. All right, now I'm going to add orange. Let's do the flower pot in orange here. I like the contrast with the orange and the yellow. It's kind of cool. It reminds me of candy corn. Of course, Scarlett has to speak up. Something's happening outside. I don't know what's happening. All right, so there's our orange. I was going to say brown. All right, now the same thing with this plant right here. I'm going to go with, let's mix a green. So here is regular green. I'm going to take a little bit of this darker green, just to make it kind of the in-between of the two. And just add green to these leaves. But I'm also going to take my green paint and just draw that stem in with the paintbrush. See that stem that's right there? That's then the leaves can just kind of go off that stem. Here's another one. Just becomes off that stem. Kind of roll the paintbrush to get a better point. Maybe there's a leaf right there. Let's make another one here that we didn't put. but have this one kind of like, you know, hang over the side of the pot. Add a little bit more of this dark green to this. And now we have another stem that's kind of coming down like this, going into the pot. Another leaf coming up. And then we have these. Now they're kind of overlapping, but remember when we start to outline it, it's going to look a little different because it won't be. That's when we're going to say, okay, well, what leaf is what? Here's another one. And then we've got this one, and we're going to make it just kind of come down. So those are the leaves for that one. Now the next plant really kind of has a gradation of leaves, or a variety of different leaves. So let's take this apple green color and see what we can do with some of these leaves, just to kind of lighten things up. So here's one of the leaves there. Maybe here's another one. And maybe these leaves were kind of like blowing in the wind. And you saw the underside of them. We'll take a little bit of this other green just to kind of darken things up a little bit. And you can always add black to the green to make it a darker green. So just kind of alternating. And that'll give it more depth, dimension. And then, if, of course, if there's a couple of different colors on your brush at the same time for those greens, it's going to make it look a little bit different too. So here's kind of an apple green. I'll put that dark green down here. Throw another dark green up here. This color green. Green. It's just called green. Pretty boring. Another apple green down here, even though it's kind of similar to the leaf that's there, and we'll throw in another leaf here. Just kind of cover that up. And then I'm going to add a dark green kind of mixed in with something else here. And again, these are going to be changing once you add your black, because the black is going to it's going to identify where everything kind of ends and begins and ends. Let's add some apple up here and a little bit of an apple guy there. Now, I kind of think that when you get to this point inside here, it should be a little bit darker. Like this should be the darkest of the greens, because it's kind of like getting no light. It's deep inside there. And I'll add some apple green into here. Now we have that lavender color. Again, you know, this is kind of maybe a color palette that you really wouldn't choose. They're kind of muted colors. And this lavender is Craft Smart, and for some reason, every time I open, I think I've talked about this before, but every time I open a bottle of this Craft Smart paint, I have several, I think I have 3 bottles of Lavender Craft Smart. And it seems like every time I open it, each one is a different shade of lavender. Does anybody else have that happen with this Craft Smart paint? Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do, now that we have all our plants there, is we're going to deal with my mistake. So, I'm going to go with this brown, just this regular brown from Craft Smart. Let's hope there's enough of which one I want. Maybe there is not. So we'll have to go with an Arteza in a tube burnt umber. So there's my burnt umber. All right, so now I'm just going to make sure that we have the line where we want it to be. So let's just take my pen, or pencil. Let's take a pencil. And I'm going to draw that line there. So this is where I'm fixing my mistake. I'm going to take this brush here, and I am first going to just go around everything. This is when mistakes happen. I kind of like this dark brown better. All right, so now that I have all of my, kind of my area filled in, now I'll take another brush to really kind of smooth it all out. I wanted to get close to the plants. And actually, now that I think about it, this color paint is much better because it's covering the yellow easier. It's shinier. Sometimes this Arteza in a tube definitely needs a little bit of water. Now, when I work on the outlining, I'm going to use a very tiny brush. I'm going to use that black brush that I had. But one of the other things that I like to do, too, when I'm outlining something is I like to kind of flip it over so that it becomes more, it allows me to focus on the outlining rather than focus on what I'm outlining. So, but I also want to place my hand somewhere where it's dry. So, 2 reasons, I guess. I'm just kind of getting the edge here. This canvas wants to walk away today. And then I'll get the edge here. Fix what we had. Fix the other section. And then fix this section too. Okay. So now we have the bottom complete. We have the top part of it complete. We have our plants. And now I'm going to work with some Apple Barrel Gloss Black. And not by choice, because I didn't really like that gloss black, but I do like it because it's very, the flow of it is good. So it's not a heavy body acrylic. It's a nice, it has a good craft flow to it, craft paint flow to it. It's not very sticky. Arteza Black is very sticky. All right, so I'm going to start from left to right. And so it is a little bit wet back here, but there we go. There's enough paint on the brush. You kind of graze it. Does that make sense? So I'm filling in all of these, the black around all of these different leaves here. So as each leaf gets outlined, you start to really kind of see all of the actual plant coming to life. You can also outline this with a Sharpie or any other type of permanent marker. When we outline the next plant with the orange pot, we're going to also outline those stems as best we can. So here's an example of, there's the green, it's kind of all together, but what do we see in that section? And then I'm just going to add a little bit of a zigzag. So now the next one, outline the pot that it's sitting in, and then begin with the leaves. But see this stem right here? I'm actually going to outline it so it meets that leaf. Same thing with this one. And here. So that's completely outlined. Let's see how we outline that stem. Oh, I do see that I missed one. And now for this one, I have to move this guy over a little bit. The finished one. It's in the way. Now for this one, we've got our flowers that we're going to be outlining, and then we're going to add a little bit of white for the middles. But the flowers themselves will also be outlined. I just like to kind of graze it. You know, don't press too hard. Don't make your brush bend. Keep dipping. Keep a good point on it. Here's that leaf again back there. And then when we come back around, we'll add some white. And then back over to the cactus. I think the cactus is probably the most fun one to do. Because then we get to have some fun, not just with outlining it, but actually adding all of the, what do you call them? The thorn? Are they called thorns? I'm not really sure what they're called. I guess I'm not well versed in cactus. Kind of making that, I don't know, give it like a little bit, look like, I want to say they look like fat fingers, but I don't know if that would be mean to say. Again, this section there. And now I'm just going to add some dots, some random dots. We don't want them to look like, I don't really want them to look like a pattern. Like, I don't want them to be in rows. Although maybe they are in rows on a cactus. Different sizes. And then we're going to just kind of add these little lines. Just like that. And then the last thing I'm going to do is just kind of add this part right here. So it looks like that is sitting inside the pot. Let's get some white. And for the white section, we're just going to add a little bit of white to the center of each flower. Just kind of give it a little bit of something, something, as they say. And then I'm going to add a white squiggly here. And then add a black dot and a black dot, just to kind of give them some design. I'm going to add a zigzag to this one. And for this one, I'm going to go down like that and then crisscross it and then paint what's in the middle. This one, we need to add little bits of something. Little bits of something. And then some dots. And I would say it's complete. Hey, great job today. Looks awesome.